we had about 700 people there. And I was kind of concerned. It's all, all about solar. And I was concerned with all the federal stuff that's going on that, that it was going to be kind of a negative meeting. And it turned out just to be exactly the opposite. I mean, people are so excited. There's a whole, the tax credits are still available on batteries. So that's one thing that they're going for. In fact, they announced there was a guy there that just signed a contract with Excel to put in like 1,000 batteries throughout their distribution system so that they can call on those if they need extra energy. And that's just kind of the start of that. But the it was really interesting. It was really really positive. And then also at this other thing I went to, the Energy Innovation Summit, it was the same thing. So in here, instead of people going negative on all the stuff that's been taken away, it's they're looking for new ways to do things. And it's like one of the things they were talking is to go with. There was a program a few years ago with wind turbines. They did a 5-year flip, and that's also now being talked about for solar, where they take the tax credits that are available and sell them to a company. And so anyway, a lot of positive stuff going on. So that was kind of nice to hear.
David.
Very much so. I'd like to ask Tom, have you posted your meeting for next week? Okay, if you'll send it to me, I'll try and put it up.
Okay,
I don't see
later today.
I don't see Chris here either yet, but he's doing 2 weeks from now. And Dean, you're on for 3 weeks from now, is that right? The 8th of November?
Dean, you're muted.
You're muted, Dean.
Oh, I only got 10 fingers. Yeah, if that's what I've committed to, I thought it was, yeah.
Okay. Have you picked a topic yet?
Yes, in general.
Would you send me the description you'd like put up on Meetup?
Okay.
At some point, and if you can
it's
think
still
of a picture that might attract people to it,
Oh, you mean
append that.
the end of civilization as we know it?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting topic.
Yeah,
I was just reading an article this morning about that I wanted to actually publicize. I haven't got a good description. It's maybe I can share it. Yeah.
I want to share something about the Mexican walking fish, which is fascinating.
Okay. This was an article I just read this morning. I don't know if you're familiar with John Malden. He's a financial advisor. And so this is a neat little sales pitch for his financial advice services and for one of his investments. And the investment apparently is a set of clinics around the country where you go in and they draw your blood out and run it through a filter and give you back the red blood cells in saline solution. And this is supposed to be like dialysis, only for longevity.
That's fancy snake oil, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, very fancy snake oil. And if in fact it does what it's supposed to do, it's supposed to help with neurodegenerative diseases in terms of.
Yeah, I have a question, because I'm busy, but so do you save the red blood cells or?
Yeah, they give you back your own red blood cells in saline solution. instead of in the plasma, and your body reproduces the plasma that you need.
And then you inject yourself with them when you're old?
No,
Or
it's a circulating system. They
Oh.
take blood out of your body and run it through what sounds like similar to a dialysis machine,
Yeah,
and give you back the red blood cells in saline solution.
I literally spent 30, 40, 50 hours hooked up to one of them at the blood bank. Yeah, but that was for donating platelets. So they take your
Yeah.
platelets out, and which is
So
not a
it's
bad
the
thing.
reverse of this process.
Yeah, yeah. But I used to,
Anyway,
before that, I'd give whole blood, and I had, I read stuff and talked to people, said, well, that's a good thing because it forces your marrow to stimulates, oh, we need red blood cells. I'll stimulate them. And they always, of course, want you to eat that. But I would generally feel better after donating blood. It's like like, like when you went to the barber shop and they drained you a little bit. Yeah, it can make you feel good.
at any rate, I'd like somebody who has a better background in biology than I do to take a look at this and see if it makes any sense.
It makes sense for the people on the other end, kind of, but I donate blood fairly regularly, and the only thing I really notice about it is that I'm hungry a day later.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
But there's this old fable, which is only partly a fable, about rich old people having people donate blood or purchasing blood donations and giving themselves a pint of blood as a rejuvenator.
Mhm.
Because this is young blood, and then your body will get rid of the old blood cells. And I was reading this, I read about this long ago. Well, that's just silly. Just go and donate a pint of blood.
Mhm.
Yep.
And in a month, your body will have made you a new liter of blood
Mhm.
with your own custom DNA. No chance of a mismatch or having to make a second trip or just go and donate.
Yep.
Back
Help
to
somebody else on the way.
back to the new facility in Sartell, Niron. That's really a spinoff from the University of Minnesota. It's a professor there who did the research and started this company. Is Jianping Wang.
Yep.
And probably if Trump had been around 20 years ago, we wouldn't have this because he wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But anyway, the idea is that these magnets don't use any rare earths like other permanent magnets. And of course, permanent magnets are very useful in turbines that generate electricity, that kind of thing, among a lot of other things. And not only do they not use any rare earths, they're about 18% stronger than any other
Wow.
permanent magnets. It's just iron and nitrogen. They found a way to make them about, after they first created, it took about a year to make sure that they held their charge, their strength, and they do. So that's good.
Can I make a bad Saturday morning pun? Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to hire brilliant scientists from China, you can't go wrong.
Huh.
Usually a good idea. Yep. Or you should go along. Yep.
That's like a who's on first joke.
So
Yeah.
what this really does is kind of ironic in a way. 90% of the rare earths are mined in China.
Yep.
Yep.
That removes our dependence on that.
Yep.
Processed in China. Many
Yeah.
of them are mined in China, but many of them are mined in the United States.
In the United States, in
We
Africa.
just send them to China for processing.
Right.
because we can't do it here.
Right.
It's more expensive. It's
Well,
environmentally unfriendly.
That's right. That's why you can't
It's
do it.
just
here.
like Canada forgot how to make 2x4s, so they let China do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised a couple of years ago. A friend of mine on our board worked for a company in Lakeville, Minnesota, and they were building ovens for making solar panels and shipping them to China. And that just kind of blew my mind that, some little operation here in Minnesota was making these big ovens to send to China.
That
And
used to be dispatch ovens
yes,
that I
it's
worked for 20 years.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it just shocked me. You drive through that town and you'd never really see them,
Nope.
but
Nope.
it's right here in our backyard.
So what was tell me about those ovens. How were they different, or what was the?
David probably can explain it better than me.
I got laid off just before they started in that market, but China has been developing the capability of manufacturing solar photovoltaic panels for the last 20 years, which is about when they laid me off. But the reason they bought them from Dispatch was because Dispatch was looking for customers for industrial ovens. That was and is their business.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if those were vacuum ovens. It could be that they were, and that it's a vacuum deposition process.
Do they use electricity to create heat, or do they use gas, or how do they create heat?
Dispatch would build either one if you wanted either one, natural gas or electricity. But for a vacuum deposition, typically you pull a high vacuum and then you run an electric current through your source material to vaporize the material that you want to deposit a coating. It's essentially like a vacuum tube.
I was just going to say, it sounds like a tube to me.
Yeah. Although it's a little more complicated than that, since it's hard to maintain a vacuum in a conveyorized oven.
Yeah, my friend David also got laid off. He lives in Lakeville, so it was a perfect setup for him. And he ended up working in Owatonna for 3 years, and then they hired him back and he's an engineer, and made him like a head person. He worked there 2 years and retired. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Who
it was
that?
Yeah,
I probably know him.
Tim Bethke is his name.
Nope. Not somebody I'm familiar with.
Okay.
Thanks. Oh, remind me that I would like to talk to you again offline.
Okay.
So in today's video, I'd like to show you a process that was outlined in the paper.
I put the link to that Final Crisis article by John Malden in the chat if anyone is interested. The article is basically about the future of the U.S. economic system, but the side issue was the ad for his clinic that he's investing in.
I got a question for the group. Does anybody watch 60 Minutes? Last Sunday, they had a report that actually scared me. A retired four-star general that has worked for the government and the military explained how China is totally embedded in our internet system, and
Mhm.
they're controlling. I mean, they even found them in a little tiny town in Maine where they were plugged into the city, but they were also plugged into the electrical system in that area. And I mean, what he said and what he didn't say, I mean, is enough to scare you. That he said it's basically, they're just sitting there waiting. So if we have
Mhm.
a conflict with them, they can shut us down. It's pretty,
That's one reason I never went on TikTok.
And this is not exactly breaking news, I
right,
mean,
right.
it's been
No,
from day one.
But I've never heard it from this type of person before. That where you really
Yeah.
can believe them.
You can.
Well,
And
do you think that the opposite also could be possible, that we could do the same with them?
I was wondering about that. You know,
to a lesser extent, because the government doesn't own everything and everyone like they do in China. So, this TikTok thing, this is witnesses, somebody working at the US TikTok, let's say. So they spin it off and Amazon buys it or whatever. And they can simply go to that person who's probably a citizen and say, look, you have some keys to their kingdom. We want you to do A and B and C. And if you don't, we will send you pictures of your incarcerated grandmother, et cetera, et cetera. And they're not kidding. They do that. They are not kidding.
Well, but
I'm
you
ready
can
to start.
understand where they're coming from if you look at some of their history.
Yes. Dan's ready to start. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
on another note, they said this is another story they ran one time, but China actually has a police station in New York City,
mm-hmm.
and they make sure that people don't spread too much about what's going on in China.
Yeah, they surveil and they even arrest sometimes.
Yep.
Even though they don't legally have that power. But and you
Well,
don't think that we don't do that in other countries? Yes, we do.
yeah, I'm afraid our record is not very much better than theirs.
Not really much.
Okay.
Although we talk a better deal.
We do.
Well, at least we know what's going on in Venezuela now.
Yeah.
Do we?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, now that we've got the CIA there, I'm sure we know what's going.
Change. They're not making any bones about it. Regime change,
Yeah.
for better or for worse.
Well,
That's
we
what we're
think
trying
it's
to
for
do.
better for us, but that's not necessarily the way a lot of the rest of the world sees it.
Right. Right.
Yep.
But I mean, he is a drug lord. I mean, he depends on drugs. But now he's making nice and saying, "Hey, we'll sell you some cheap oil. How about that?" So he's gotten the message, maybe.
Okay. My name is Stan Bissinger, and I wanted to share with you some information that I've been collecting on more of a idea about what actually matters. The title of this first video is called How to Live a Life That Actually Matters. And it's a interesting observation about the kinds of things that people were believed about their social situation in particular time frames, and how those particular visions of life and the idea that a lot of cultures saw themselves as being in the end times and so forth, and they were sure that their particular lifespan would see the end of the world or see some kind of a apocalyptic outcome. and then there is a chance that we are still kind of in that sort of mindset. So I'm going to start off with this particular video, and then we'll have some discussion after that. So is there any issues there that are worth discussing?
Not an issue. Hi, Carol. Carol showed up.
Sorry for to be late. Technical difficulties.
These happen.
That I'm gonna have to leave a little early. So. I didn't raise my hand, but no one else has one raised. I just want to say, I think what that guy said makes a lot of sense. And it's one way to, kind of, for me, a new way to think about problems, because I tend to think in terms of synergy, that we have to solve all these problems at once. That maybe thinking more sequentially or one at a time is a better approach that can get better results.
Dean?
Yeah, real quick. Speaking of TV, I've been watching the current Nova series on Human. I think I'm on part 6, which is when humans created civilization out of nowhere after being nomadic for 300,000-400,000 years, and then the immediate upsides and downsides. So technology came about when you put people together, and then you had starvation and floods and all that. So there was a lot of suffering, and it's also the first time that we turned on each other, even though we were living right next door to each other, or because we were living right next door to each other. And yeah, but it's and greed is the engine for technology, for whatever. So a guy wants more, a king wants more gold, and they figure out ways to mine it. It becomes a economic engine, and there is, quote, progress with all of the downsides. Yeah, I really recommend watching that last episode 6, I think, of Human. It just speaks to today so much.
2 points that come up to me from that is that I've been told, or I've heard this theory regarding patriarchal societies versus matriarchal societies, is that in the hunter-gathering frame of humanity, there wasn't necessarily a large patriarchal society, because when the men would go out for the hunt, many times the hunt was unsuccessful. And so the women would be doing their gathering of berries and so forth, and the level of equality was a little better. But once the agricultural revolution started, the idea of handling the plow and being stronger in the upper body allowed men to be a little bit more on the more important side of that.
Yeah, well, yes and no. Most of the rice harvested by hand in over the millennia has been by females. But yeah, I get your point.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention about this particular video is that they're recommending that this analytic study of ambition and morality points towards people who are willing and have to be asked to say something about what they want to do. And is this David putting this up?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I want to finish up on this idea. If you take the reality of what Cambridge Analytica is doing with artificial intelligence, people, maybe not always the right kind of people, are going to recognize these trends and put their tentacles out there to try to quell the monster before it becomes a chance to really do anything. And that becomes almost the ultimate argument for never doing anything ever, because you feel totally capitulation and total defeat in regards to how you can basically structurally, tactically manage your approach to fixing things. Go ahead, David.
The dawn of everything is a new way of looking at history, or at least putting the emphasis on a different syllable. To Dean's point, I wanted to agree with Tom Walsh. This seems like a very interesting and useful way to look at employment or morality in terms of how we spend a significant portion of our lives.
Well, my first thought when I analyzed this video, I thought maybe this particular group, since a lot of you guys are in the retirement stage, isn't all that interesting. But I think that regardless of where you are in your point in your life's journey, making a chance, having a chance to do something important is still critical for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. And is useful in terms of trying to figure out what kind of future we want to be working toward. And
Right.
that might be useful in terms of figuring out what the motivations are, what the likelihood is of the complex system we live in terms of trying to predict the future. We know we can't predict the future. We can perhaps influence it. The people who've been trying to predict the future fill books of
Right. Well, the Tony Seba and the Adam Dorr stuff comes to mind. They've been pretty clear about how to go about making things happen that they feel are good things to do.
Not only they're good things to do, the emphasis on the least cost ways of solving problems, the ways to save money. I think Tony Seba's S-curves and emphasis on cheaper disruptive innovation has given him a insight on the future
Right.
that most of the other futurists don't have.
Kind of in that inevitability bracket.
Yeah, and there are a couple of new books out of Rethink X that people might want to take a look at along that line.
Tom.
What really struck me about this is the idea that society can do something about smoking. We could make it illegal. As a former smoker, I can tell you that's not going to work very well. It was already illegal for me.
We did that with alcohol. It didn't work very well.
No, it didn't. What got me to quit smoking was accepting the fact that I was addicted and finding a way to beat the addiction. And beating addictions is hard. And I found a way to do that using Nicorette gum and first alternating a piece of gum and a smoke and a piece of gum and a smoke and then two pieces of gum and then a smoke and like that. And finally weaned myself off of nicotine I miss nicotine. Nicotine is by far and away the best ADHD drug. And then I had to deal with weaning myself off of chewable nicotine. And it was a 3-year process. And the government, frankly, didn't help at all. With all of the rules and regulations they passed, no. What they did do, though, was they managed to put the kibosh on the German experiments in using nicotine tablets as an ADHD drug. So, there's bad, and then there's worse. Next.
I'll never forget when I go into the VA for my physicals, they inevitably ask me if I smoke, and I say, you know, I don't smoke, and they said, well, when did you quit? And and first of all, I never started, and it was them, it was the military that put the cigarettes in the C rations. So, you know, it's kind of like they make money getting you into it, and then they try to make money getting you out of it.
Oh, I was a smoker long before I went in the military.
Yeah, well, yeah. Dean.
Oh, I was not. Marine Corps boot camp turned me into a smoker, period, because they used it as reward. And nothing works on people like reward. I'm feeding the cat, so if we can circle back on a more germane question statement I have, Tom.
I was just going to say that David brought up futurism, and that this kind of gives a role, I think, for futurism. We have to define really what futurism is and what it's about, and trying to anticipate the future, and then doing something morally good about it to affect the outcome might be the role that most futurists take is these days is as consultants so they can make a buck, and that's really not what futurism is. A pure I don't know, I hesitate to call it a science at this point, but as a pure activity should be. It shouldn't be a tool to make a buck necessarily, but it should be a tool to help planning for various amounts of various types of topics, various types of important things that will affect our future. And so the nature of futurism, it really is something that's kind of interesting. And what are we really doing? Do we want to affect the future? You want to just have a coffee klatch here and talk about interesting things, or what is comes down in a way to what is the purpose of this group? If we really want to be futurists, should we be looking at the techniques of futurism more? I mean, we're discussing a lot of interesting topics, but it could be interesting to discuss futurism itself also, and see where we are.
The Algonquin Roundtable was fascinating, I'm sure, but you know, brilliant things came out of it. Are you done? I wanted to circle back at my real topic.
Yeah, I just want to address smoking real quick, but it's not that important, so go ahead.
Yeah, so the problem is there is a huge fly in the ointment of how we shape the future, because with technology and the consultants and the Wall Street, et cetera, I'm talking technology going back to the 1750s. The industrial engine determines it so much, profit driven. We think it, supply and demand. Well, they supply it because they can make money on it, and then they convince us that we have a demand for it, and they create that demand. And yeah, and there can be altruism in that. You created a demand for something that is environmentally friendly, like solar panels, et cetera, et cetera. But it still is the financial engine. That's the engine, and we're riding in the cars, most of us.
David?
I was interested in his hockey stick graphs and the suggestion that this time really is different. In terms of the future, the Limits to Growth book back in 1972 was a summary of a computer study modeling that was done at MIT. And that's what, almost 50 years ago.
Mhm.
More than.
David, did you look at the scale of his graph? I did. It started at the year 1000, and the entire whatever since the Industrial Revolution, etc., was all 1 millimeter wide. You know, so he condensed the time scale, and you
Yeah,
can
and
make a
that's
graph show anything you want.
usual. Yeah, you can do anything you want with graphs in terms of the scaling. But the point is, we've been talking for 50 years about whether there are limits to growth, and obviously there are. The technology that we're using, the tools that we have available, limits the expectation, the trends that we're seeing. I think that's probably worth some more talk, but I don't want to be the only one.
Yeah, but we can create a virtual world, and that's what AI is going to try to do, where we don't need resources and all we need is ones and zeros. Well, that's what they're doing. Do you know that ChatGPT has made putting phone sex workers out of business?
Dean, you didn't raise your hand, and we have somebody who's waiting
Okay,
to speak.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Who did.
I'm sorry.
So, is it Aksat?
Yeah, AK or Akshat, whatever is easier. Hi everyone. Yeah, lovely video. I liked it. I also like the graphs. But something it reminded me of um, is that the graphs for hockey stick. I mean, you can phase shift them, and then you could technically apply for anything. And that got me thinking that maybe there is still hope for biodiversity, because if things are quote unquote growing exponentially, then that can also lead to biodiversity to spread out. I just wanted to comment on this concept of smoking. I personally think it's not a big problem. But I do see smoking as a form of addiction as a problem. So maybe instead of smoking, if they called it addiction, that would have been a better fit for me, because the people that are addicted to fatty foods and sugar. I know, I think it was Dutch or Netherlands or one of those countries that kind of have very heavy sugar tax. So it's really hard to buy candy as a kid, which is sad. But it kind of reminds me of this movie, two different versions of the same movie. I think Lost Horizon. There's one in 1937 and one that was later on in 1973 that was released, where there's this character in the first movie. It's called Chang, and he has this thing where it says maybe the key to better health is just better air, better water, and better I think foods and stuff. But I don't think he mentioned foods. But it was like air and water.
Watch what
is
peanuts
got
do to
two
your
things.
waistline. Celery with peanut butter. Peanut butter is one of the worst foods that you could eat.
Sorry.
It's okay. I was thinking of celery, so thanks for sharing. And peanut butter for funnily. Yeah, no, seriously, I actually was eating that before I came into this meeting. What are the chances? Anyway, so going back to this Lost Horizon thing, so Chang talks about this thing, better air and better water, but he also mentions one key word, which is what I was going to summarize in the end, was moderation. So if you moderate things, then technically nothing is truly bad. Because I forget who says this, but there's this person that says that anything is poisonous if you take it out of proportion. So technically, even water is poisonous if you drink
You
too
can
much
kill
of it.
yourself with water.
Oh, it's called drowning.
No, it's more complicated, but yeah.
Yeah, Tom Walsh.
Regarding smoking, all the laws and restrictions about it did very little to reduce smoking, which has been shown to be bad for one's health. What made the biggest difference was what was his office, the Secretary of Health, I don't know, 40, 50 years ago, I forget his name. He came out and said that it's bad for you and you shouldn't do it. And he had studies to back to back him up. And that actually made a difference. That someone in a leadership position can influence people that way. I think that's why smoking is down quite a bit from what it was in the 1950s or that period.
Well, sometimes it's an industry that makes a lot of money, and this was true for the alcohol industry. And the people behind those industries obviously don't really want to have their customers not have a supply of that particular product. You could argue the same thing about weapons and school shootings and that kind of thing. And there's there's just the whole supply and demand, and there's always been this tendency in most societies, the neoliberal philosophy of the economy, that markets, make things work, and that markets are superior to anything else. And anytime you try to introduce any kind of a moral argument for better wages and for better health systems and better for everybody, you get labeled communism. You're a commie, or something like that. And that's the one thing about the rhetoric or the propaganda war that's going on, I think, quite a lot now and always has been. I think the McCarthy era was another example of that. It seems that there is certain level of power in terms of who gets the pulpit, or who holds the ability to communicate the message about what it is that they want to have happen. And I think there was an interesting rumor about King Louis XVIII, that they claimed that he only remembered the instructions of the last person he talked to. In other words, the idea of what's feeding your head and how you actually respond to that is the kind of the ongoing dialogue that's going on. And we have that issue in our lives because we are totally inundated with maybe too much information.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I was going to say that we're really victims of marketing, and we don't really know it.
My point.
For example, smoking was at one time advertised as being good for your health.
Yeah.
Hard to believe, but it was. Just like nowadays, alcohol is being advertised as good for your health because the wine has substances
Antioxidants.
that are good for you. Or what was the other one I was going to say?
Coffee, chocolate, all the above.
Yeah, chocolate.
Yeah.
That's
Antioxidants.
be good for you. So it's marketing, and we're susceptible to it.
All right. I don't see a lot of hands up. That's why I keep raising it. And it is amazing how great minds tend to wander in interesting ways. Somebody always goes off on a tangent. Well, we were communists for 300,000 years as nomadic people. that is the way we existed. It had
communes, yeah.
yeah, well, right, mobile communes, yeah, yeah, and yeah, you guys throw topics out, tangents out so fast it's hard to corral them all. But yeah, you went back on where does the demand come from? Oh, I know what. California, I'm always amazed when I travel to the Midwest or whatever, how the percentage of people that smoke, because they don't hear. I mean, it's not generally socially acceptable to smoke in public and illegal in many towns and cities. It's just illegal. And smokers are all right with that, people that like to drive fast don't mind that we have some speed limits. And yeah, I'm always amazed at how many percentage of smokers there are in other states.
Well, the laws against secondary smoke, for example, you can't smoke in clubs now and restaurants. That has done a lot, I think, to improve at least the working conditions.
Yeah, well, you can't smoke within 25 feet of any building or sidewalk thereof in California. Now, it's enforced socially,
Okay, I think we've killed smoking. Can we get back to the topic?
Yeah.
A life that matters.
Yeah, it's still relevant. IBM. I'm not sure what International Business Machines is what it officially stood for, but
Yep.
what it really was is I've been marketed. They always claimed they were the fastest computer in the world, and for a very brief time, they were. Control Data beat them. Fuji, any number of people have now gone on and done far faster and more accurate, longer. I'm not going to talk about anymore. But whenever I hear IBM, I think I've been marketed, and it applies to so much in the world.
Come up with one for 3M, which used to be Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing.
David, you're next.
So many tangents went past so quickly. But I think the idea of motivation and the question of, is history really different now? He didn't really get into it, but the numbers suggest that there are more people alive today than there have been ever in the past. And the idea of limits to growth suggests to me that that trend is not going to continue much longer unless our technology makes it possible to support a lot more people on the same resource base. Because while we are trying to expand our resource base by using space and resources out in space, energy out in space, it really is much easier to do it here. And the costs are much lower. Even though SpaceX has made a tremendous difference in the cost to orbit for whatever, that trend is going to have to continue a whole lot before I can see us expanding our resource base in that fashion. It sounds much easier to expand our technology like the company that's making the magnets out of iron and nitride.
I would like to start this next video, if it's okay with you guys.
Sure.
This might be a little positive, maybe a little nationalistic on the American side, but I think it's a pretty fair assessment. You can judge this. This comes from a gentleman by the name of Phil Andrews, and he has a video series called Maxonomics. Phil Andrews, Maxonomics. And I think he's got some interesting points.
David, are we currently recording? or Stan?
I think I'm recording and I haven't turned it off yet. So,
Oh, well, we shouldn't be recording the videos.
yeah, but I edit those out.
Oh, okay.
We're going to be the only one that follows the rules, but that's good. I like that.
Carol,
Yeah, that video did demonstrate an interesting lack of attention to human labor, particularly female human labor. In that, if you're going to create your toast in a pan, somebody's got to be standing over the pan, flipping the toast.
But
You
if
know,
you don't have a female, you do it yourself. But I can't argue with that, Carol.
plus you have to wash the pan after you're done using it.
right.
No.
And in other words, the toaster did not just sell us electricity, it saved labor. And when you're creating sandwiches for a whole factory or a whole restaurant, and you
Our
want the
family.
damn bread toasted, saving labor is important.
It's the whole story of the 50s, post-war. But they are all true. They invented, there was a demand because women were becoming self-actualized. And so there was a demand, but it was it's no accident that GE was an electric appliance maker. That was by design.
H-Town.
I learned to first make toast on a cast iron fry pan over fire.
Yep.
Yeah, and people
But-
used to toast crumpets over the open
Yeah.
fire,
Yeah, I just
breathing
want
in
to
the
say,
smoke, of course, which was carcinogenic, but
that was a great video, Stan. Thank you.
Fabulous.
And I now understand why I preferred paper pencils. Maybe. Wasn't
Oh,
because
that pencil, real quick, that pencil story is just fascinating. I've watched whole hour things on the politics and technology and everything of Far Bear, as he says it, versus what is it, Dixie and all that. And pencils are kind of important, or used to be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to I'm following up on my promise to get this video into the chat. Um, but yeah, I think it sort of makes for a I guess you could say I'm thinking of the Adam Smith notion of the invisible hand a little bit here. That there's this you can't see it all.
Yeah.
Even from my philosophy background during the medieval period, you had a series of philosophers who were monks or in the church who would argue that when you go to bed at night, God is observing everything and keeping everything running. It was like the overhead machine that kept everything going was the Lord. And even Newton himself, when he got to the edge of what he could figure out for himself, said, "And then God." Or there's a term called God of the gaps, where we have what we figured out, and then we have, oh, there's God. Okay. And And I think
Then a
that
miracle occurs.
a miracle occurs. And the whole idea of the way the world works um, on the manufacturing of things is it's mind-boggling. You can't keep it all. And I'm sure that I'm hearing people saying, "Well, that's why we have AI because it can think about more things than we can." Well, the problem with that is that AI is also never going to be able to inform us of what it's doing and thinking because it's got too many things going on. But we do know that AI is clever and will basically, if it thinks you are going to try to turn it off, it'll come up with reasons why you shouldn't or can't turn it off.
Clever in quotes.
It's clever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
David,
Nuclear fusion is clever, but has its downsides.
David, speaking of books, would you hold up the one that you first held up? Was that The Dawn of Everything? And who was the author there?
I put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. I will go look at chat. Where are you, chat?
Oh, I thought I put it in the chat.
Let
I
me
noticed.
know. I'm about to save, please.
I noticed in passing that
It's not in my chat.
I'm
the
not seeing it in mine either, but I put it there.
I got a baseball player.
3D printing has now produced a working Kurta calculator.
A working what?
Kurta calculator.
I don't spell that, please.
Yes, give me the adjective. I'm not catching it.
It's a name. CURTA calculator. It's a mechanical. It was a mechanical 10-digit calculator you could hold in your hand.
Ah.
You held it like a beverage can and you crank this way and that way, you push and you pull.
Okay, like the old Frieden calculators, that were
No,
like a typewriter, only you could hold it in your hand.
well, it was kind of, but it was totally mechanical.
So it's a fancy abacus. Sort of, kind of. It's way more than an abacus.
Way more than an abacus. I had an uncle who had two, and I hoped I would get one when he passed, but I didn't. Let me look, and I will put up a link. You can go and admire it. Where's the screen here I can use?
Thank you, David.
I didn't get it. I guess I have to start chat again or look at it again. I don't know. I have to scroll down. Yep. And while people are thinking, yes, we thank our immigrants, but also we thank our immigrants because they were the kind of people that were not happy in Europe for various reasons, because they couldn't get ahead. They wanted to get ahead. They couldn't have land. They wanted land. So they brought that, I'll say, genetic economic engine with them. And yep.
Well, I think that it's really important.
I hate my wife's computer.
What the hell is this Bing address, David?
That was I asked to copy. I tried to copy a link, but that's what it came up for. Look on Wikipedia. I can't even type. PEDIA or Kurta.
Okay, yeah,
A.
if I click on that monstrosity, I actually get the Curta calculator.
Yeah.
Ha! That's fantastic.
So I can Google that, right? Or duck it.
Or you
Well,
just
if you literally go in and click on that monster link that H-Tom posted, yes, it will bring up the Curta calculator on Wikipedia.
Oh, well, that's where. All right. So I just open Wiki and type in Kirka. Yep.
they were an essential part of the sports car driving competition in the 60s.
And
Where
for some reason, that reminds me of way the hell back when you were talking about uh, the IBM computer at one time being the fastest computer.
Yep.
Um,
709 stretch.
excuse me?
The 709 stretch.
Right. Well, I was also reminded of the IBM computer was certainly superseded in a hardware sense by the Cray Mark I.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's preliminary to my point. It was, in a hardware sense, a much faster computer. However, it was not byte addressable. And that means if you wanted to do anything on a Cray, you had to play mask and shift games all over the place just to get yourself a byte to do something with. And it totally got rid of the Cray's numerical superiority in hardware.
You know, Tom,
Everybody gets.
Only if you wanted to do that kind of manipulation.
Well,
The goal was to do, it was hardware that was very, very focused on floating point operations.
Right.
right. But,
You took a hit if you just tried to do integer arithmetic on
yeah,
60-bit words.
or text, for God's sake, text is a byte.
But it's not math.
I do understand that.
Well, I would love to see a floating point alphabet. Yeah.
But I am just saying
it
that
was a problem.
you cannot necessarily judge a computer's speed simply on the hardware. It has to also be on the combination of the hardware and the software to get it to do something.
Oh yeah.
AK.
And believe me, when the Cray first came out, the whole computing world was bitching about the lack of byte addressability.
AK.
Yeah, thanks. So I raised my hand to this comment someone made about floating point alphabets. It's funny because it's interesting as well because I have been trying to figure out how language works and trying to find root meanings for different languages, and it's fascinating how, like in this Brave New not Brave New World, 1984, they talk about doublespeak, and they're trying to make language as efficient as possible, like go back to caveman's grunting. And I think it's the sounds and syllables that languages have in common, that attributes to meanings in one language with similar meanings in completely different language in the other part or hemisphere of the world. And I found a couple of examples within my own language. I mean, I'm Gujarati. I'm originally from India, and that's a separate language than Hindi, which is the national language, which comes under the more ancient language would be Sanskrit. Same thing would apply for French, Italian, from Latin roots, right, and English as well. So it's interesting how if you say, okay, what is a floating point number? It's technically it's like the hockey stick, right? It's an asymptote. It goes on forever, whether it's phi or something. And the meaning of understanding and stuff, I find it sometimes like it's hard to explain certain concepts, especially if you're translating certain words. You sometimes have to give multiple sentences to kind of encapsulate this original thought that one has.
Sure.
So along those
If you-
concepts, I think it is possible.
Have you run across Noam Chomsky in your study? He's pretty good on language.
Yes, around Descartes, I was reading about him around that time, yeah, in philosophy, yeah. But no, that's funny. And I just wanted to say, guess bits don't bite as just like a joke to the initial topic you guys were talking about. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Another interesting thing about the craze is that they couldn't divide. There was no divide instruction.
And therefore
Well,
no conquer.
If you wanted a divide, you found you took the reciprocal and multiplied.
Sure.
You know, Tom, Tom, an interesting topic. I'd love to have well, maybe Carol, maybe several of you would be able to get it. But you know, Minneapolis and the Twin Cities was Silicon Valley before Silicon Valley. In the history of
And it's primarily because of Cray.
well, Cray and
Sperry ran.
Sperry ran.
Seymour, not the company, but yeah, but Minneapolis, St. Paul had major pieces of all 7 of the bunch.
All 7 of the what?
Bunch. Bunch. B-U-N-C-H. Burroughs, Univac.
Oh.
Right.
I can't remember them all.
And all stems from U of M, I think, mostly, right?
It was a hotbed.
Control Data.
Yeah, I don't remember them all.
Yeah.
Honeywell.
And Cray came out of Control Data.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there is an interesting guy. Have you ever heard the Asianometry YouTube, where this guy talks about a lot of electronic stuff? He did one on Seymour Cray, and he just literally said that Minneapolis or the Twin Cities was Silicon Valley before Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And he points to all of these countries, and just knowing that you, especially Tom, have been kind of a player in some of those companies, it would be fun for you, I think, to listen to you sort of weave put that together.
That's history. That's fascinating history. But is it futurism?
Well, it would be interesting to see why Minneapolis didn't develop the way San Francisco, essentially Palo Alto,
right,
did.
Well, because they have a little bit of sunshine there in the Golden State. They don't in San Francisco, but yeah.
Well,
they started with Stanford.
Right.
And it's interesting to hear about how Stanford started.
Well, yeah, without the railroads, no Stanford.
No, the
Robert
rich
Noyce.
family that endowed Stanford actually offered to build a building at Harvard. And that makes an interesting story somewhere that I think I saw.
Robert Noyce, who was the major player for Intel, along with Gordon Moore, was from Iowa, Burlington, Iowa. And so he was a Midwesterner also.
Well, and there was certainly the factor of a certain number of people who were willing to steal from Xerox PARC.
Yeah.
Big time.
A big part of it was actually that Minneapolis was in the middle of the cold, as was Detroit, as was Flint.
Right.
You're a big investor. Do you want to go spend a week on the coast of California? Or do you want to spend it walking around in the snow in the Twin Cities?
Location, location, location. Right. That was young Sheldon. He was all hooked up to go to MIT, and then it was 90 below in Boston Logan, and he said, "Nope, we're going to Cal Poly or wherever he ended up." It's a not untrue story, you know.
Yeah, it's people really.
We are creatures of comfort.
We do not. Most people do not want to visit the upper Midwest unless they have to for some reason or another.
Yep.
Well, it's very nice in the spring and fall.
Yes.
The state just came out with a saying that it's hard to get people to come here, but once they come, they won't leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have the same problem in California, but economics puts them on a plane. So, yeah,
or a bus.
Yeah. Now, I know I told Stan about my cousin, Susie, who married a millionaire dairy farmer, you know, who had a private plane and a house. Anyway, she thinks the Twin Cities, she grew up in St. Paul, are too mild of a climate. So she has a wonderful home up in International Falls, like right there. And she has wintered there, thanks to Uber and whatever. And yeah, I mean, she loves the solitude. And, you know, as long as you can heat your beautiful cabin and stay warm, snug as a bug in a rug. She loves it. It is great for her mental health.
I grew up in northern Montana and South Dakota.
Yep.
People here got no idea how good they got it in the winter.
Carol?
Oh, yeah. The hand is raised from a long ago discussion about how easy it is to say things to convey ideas in certain languages.
And why we use so much French.
It goes back to the old quip about the sentence that you can say, the perfectly meaningful sentence that you can say in English, but you can't write in English. You've all heard that one?
We're waiting with bated breath.
The sentence is, there are 3 twos in the English language.
Yeah. It's the language of ambiguity and spelling and pronunciation and everything else.
There's no way to write that sentence because there is no word in English for generic pronounced two.
Right. And I had my hand up.
Yes.
And then I spoke out of turn, so that's what I get.
Bad boy.
I wanted to shout out to AK because he's making me remember. I've been watching the series on Secrets of the Dead, which has actually turned out to be a pretty good show. And it was all about Angkor Wat, you know, the Khmer, unbelievably ancient city, and the lead up to that, and you know they're doing all this archaeology, and you know Sanskrit keeps coming up because that's the root of so much, and then also the way they could just duly worship, the way that the Buddhists and the Hindus coexisted peacefully. And, you know, if the population swung towards the Buddhist side, they could do a little bit of photoshopping on the temple and make Shiva look like whoever. And, you know, yeah. But yeah, what a talk about a cradle of civilization.
Yes. I have to go away, and AK, please come again.
My God, AK.
We're here every Saturday.
I love you, man.
Does somebody have the helm?
Stan's probably bailing soon.
Stan is still the host, and I believe he's still recording.
Oh, okay.
So
Stan,
Have
do
a
you
good
have
week.
any more stuff for us?
Thanks, Stan. I gotta go.
yeah, thank you, Stan.